Hi friends, my name's Trish Roberts. I wanted to speak a little bit about a recent video that I saw, a vlog by Debbie Lusignan from Sane Progressive. I don't know if you follow Sane Progressive at all, that YouTube channel. I have followed it probably for the last, 6 months. And I was actually a big supporter of that channel. And I even donated some money toward the channel when Debbie Lusignan mentioned that her equipment was breaking down. And then I noticed when Debbie Lusignan and Claudia Stauber, which is her friend, her close friend, who has a YouTube channel called Cabin Talk, they both went off to the UNAC conference, which is the United Coalition. It's an anti-war conference. So they both went off to that, and Debbie Lusignan was very, very excited to be attending that conference. And then during the conference, there was an incident that happened, which was to do with her friend, Claudia Stauber. And Claudia Stauber attended a Black Alliance for Peace. It was a workshop, and even though it was a closed workshop for Black people, she went to the door and asked if she could come in, and they let her in. What I understand is they let her in despite the fact it was a closed workshop, and she didn't sort of respect the fact that it was a closed workshop for Black people so they could strategize. But they let her in anyway, and, which was very nice of them. And I saw a video later of Claudia Stauber at the event, at this workshop, and she looked quite relaxed, quite happy. She even asked a question of Ajama Baraka, and he answered it, and he suggested that she attend the plenary session afterwards to ask that question, because it was probably something that was more appropriate for that thing. But anyway, she was there, and she looked quite happy and quite relaxed. And I think this workshop, there was another white person as well in the workshop. I'm not sure the story about that particular white person, but anyway, Claudia was there. She looked happy, and then after the workshop, apparently the people who organized that workshop, the Black Alliance for Peace, they invited her to have lunch with them. That's what I understand happened. That's what I've read happened. So Claudia, a couple of days after having lunch with them and attending that workshop, although she wasn't allowed to live stream in that workshop, that was the condition they had, which was when she attended that workshop, that she wasn't allowed to live stream it. Somebody else was going to live stream it. She wasn't very happy about that. So anyway, a couple of days later, she got on to her YouTube channel, and she did a live stream accusing that group, the Black Alliance for Peace, of racism, reverse racism, basically. And which is sort of really, really unfortunate for a white person to be accusing Black people of being racist towards white people. So anyway, and the fact that she'd actually had lunch with them, and she was able to go into the group, but she just wasn't able to live stream, and she was very, very upset about it. This is like 2 days after the event. This is like after I'd seen a video of her in the event. She looked quite happy. I don't know if she was simmering underneath and very angry, but she looked fine in that thing. So 2 days after it, she gets very upset in this video and accuses Black Alliance for Peace and the members there of racism. And so it went downhill from there. And if you've been at all, if you pay attention to various, progressive type groups in social media, you may have seen a number of videos about this, discussing this. And I've sort of kept out of it fairly much. I did one video which didn't mention any names, but now I'm deciding that it's gone a bit too far on behalf of Sane Progressive Debbie Lusignan and what she's been promoting in recent times. And I think that she needs to be called out on this. And even though I'm not into call-out type things, really, I mean, a number of people have tried to talk to her privately, including the Black community, and she's not having a bar of it. And I've tried to as well in various ways, but she doesn't really respond to emails, unfortunately. So unfortunately, it looks like she's not going to move from. Debbie Lusignan has been defending Claudia Stauber. I forgot to mention that ever since this incident, Debbie Lusignan got involved, and has taken it to a sort of a level which is sort of ridiculous, considering all of this stems from one incident where a white woman was told she could come into a group that was a closed group, a Black closed group, Black Alliance for Peace, and what she was asked to do was not live stream. This is what all this kerfuffle has been about, is a white woman being told that they can't live stream in a group. And Debbie Lusignan has taken it to this level where she has gotten very, very upset herself that her friend was not. It's gone to the point of slamming identity politics, slamming Black people for daring to organize by themselves and wanting to have a closed group to strategize. This is the level it's taken to, all because her friend wasn't allowed to live stream in a group. And Claudia Stauber has been, they've both been, it's been really, really unfortunate. And I watched this video yesterday of Sane Progressive. Debbie was brought up this issue again. She's made she took some time offline and said that it was because she was reevaluating the channel and stepping back, and that it was all about unity now. It wasn't about any political issues or anything like that. But I mean, anybody who had a clue knew that it was about the fact that she'd gotten a lot of backlash for sticking up for Claudia over this silly racist incident. And she's been trying to make sort of excuses for why she stepped back that have really nothing to do with actually the real issue, and that was that I think it got too hot for her in the kitchen and she had to get out for a while. And I thought that maybe she might reassess what she'd been doing, but no, she came back yesterday and made this sort of video, which was a sort of a bit of a racist rant, really, which was sort of basically accusing Black people of using identity politics, some of them to attack her. Well, in every group, there will be people that will use certain movements or whatever to do that. But this is not what has been really going on here. People have tried to speak with her and sort of say, look, if Black people want to organize themselves and have a closed group, just like any group, just like women's groups or anything, they are entitled to do that, whether it's at an anti-war conference or what. The whole issue here is, and this is what I feel, and I hope that nobody takes offense at this, but the whole issue here I see is, unfortunately, is Claudia Stauber probably didn't like the fact that a Black woman was telling her, a white woman, what she could and couldn't do. That's sort of, I feel, Claudia Stauber may not even be aware of this. This might be a subconscious thing. I might be completely wrong, but this is the sort of impression I get because she was so angry about it. And really, if she didn't have a problem with somebody, a Black person, telling her that she couldn't live stream, I can't see why somebody would get so upset about it. I think the whole issue is she just didn't like a Black woman or a Black person telling her that she couldn't do something, because white people often feel that we're entitled to go anywhere we want to, do anything we want to, and that we should be instructing people, not the other way around. We should be giving the orders. This is, it's a whole white privilege thing. It's sort of what white people are used to, telling people what to do. And I think that's where it probably all stems from. It's, and that's really unfortunate. And I think if Claudia Stauber looked into herself and really thought about it, and maybe she already has, but it seems like ego is sort of really reigning here, and people are hanging on to this sort of reverse racism thing, that these black group were being reverse racist to them, and not just looking at themselves and thinking about what they're doing. But anyway, Debbie Lusignan has taken it sort of a step further, where she's sort of vilifying identity politics. She's vilifying identity politics and those that are engaged in it. Well, that means that if you take that to its logical conclusion, she's against Black Lives Matter and groups like that. Well, what kind of left person is that? Who is, three black people are shot every day in the United States. They have very much a reason to want to organize and to want safe places and to address this issue. They have every reason to do that, just as the LGBTIQ movement has every reason to organize by themselves, and that there's specific issues they have to look at and push for. And Debbie Lusignan's been pushing this thing that we all need to hold hands and unify. Well, yes, but we're not in a post-racial world. We're not in a post-homophobic world. We're not in a post-transphobic world. We are in a world which is, in fact, going the other way in many ways. But it's never been a post-racial world. This ridiculous idea that since Obama, that means that everything's fine. Come on. He was as militaristic, and he was as bad with black issues as any white person. This is about, and this is sort of doing the establishment's work for them. People like Debbie Lusignan from Sane Progressive and Claudia Stauber telling their followers, and they have Debbie Lusignan has about 50 to 60,000 people on her channel, and on her Facebook page. And, and unfortunately, it seems like a lot of them subscribe to what Debbie Lusignan is promoting, which is that identity politics are divisive, and that, we should be, and that black people basically need to evolve and move beyond their problems. And the other thing which is most disturbing is basically accusing them of, basically saying if they don't move beyond this identity politics, they're going to become what they say, what they abhor, they're going to become oppressors themselves. This is the sort of nonsense that she's been putting out. And this is all because of a stupid incident with Claudia Stauber, a white woman having a tanty over the not being allowed to live stream. All this for that stupid incident. I mean, it's just disgraceful, and it's just, if it weren't so bad and dangerous for people of color, it would be funny. You could really go to town and mock it. It's just awful, and just to see her yesterday, and I'll play a little bit of this rant that she's done, where she's basically accusing black people of not being evolved enough and moving forward, and also being bullies, and that these identity politics things are keeping us all back. Well, tell that to the 3 people that are murdered every day in the U.S. Tell those people, tell that boy that was shot in the back of the head, a 16-year-old waiting outside a place and shot in the back of the head, I mean, tell the parents of that boy that, that black people don't need to sort of organize and strategize and try and challenge this dreadful, what some describe as modern day lynchings. Because that's what it is. It's the police basically with impunity executing black people. And I mean, I think a third or a very small amount of cases actually in the United States are actually the perpetrator is of these executions. These police people actually do any sort of they're ever found guilty. Excuse me. I mean, it's obviously it's supported. This sort of execution is supported by the justice system. So that's what they're dealing with. And Debbie Lusignan would know this. I mean, surely her loyalty to her friend Claudia Stauber, you wouldn't think that she would just throw everybody under the bus, all the black community under the bus for her friend. I mean, seriously. Sorry, I don't have my tripod with me, and it started to rain. I was going to do this outside, so I had to get into the car, and it's a bit hard holding this up all the time. So excuse all the jiggling about. But I'm very, very I'm very, very disappointed in Debbie Lusignan. I really, really thought that she had. I really never expected in at all that she would go this direction. This is sort of shocking. And it also demonstrates how many people that follow her who have a sort of a kind of a deep-seated racism, because they're sort of cheering her on in a way. They're cheering her on with this direction of identity politics is bad and divisive, and I mean, she was really quite angry, and I'll see if I can add the bits where she's talking in this. And I really thought she'd gotten over all of that. I really thought, when I say gotten over, I thought that she, at worst, would not mention it again, because the whole thing was stupid and baseless. This is, and all these so-called directions of a channel, moving beyond the politics and all the unity stuff, and also taking a break. All of this was this disingenuous presentation, as if she was doing all of this because she'd suddenly decided to change directions. No, she took a break because she was getting a lot of heat for supporting a racist kind of an action by Claudia Stauber, getting a lot of heat for that, and so she had a little bit of a, I don't know, it wasn't a breakdown, but she had a, sort of she was having a lot of difficulty managing it. That was the first thing, and then this whole, I'm changing direction, and I'm more spiritually evolved. I'm going to be more spiritual now and not to pay much attention to politics. That was all just an obfuscation of the fact that she she was trying to pretend like she hadn't taken any sort of break because it was getting too hot over this incident, and that she's trying to sort of make up stories about why the whole thing was just ridiculous. I mean, she was all for going to this UNAC, this anti-war thing. She was very excited about it, and she had no plans of going in that unity direction of being evolved and telling people they need to kind of be more evolved. There was nothing like that. That only happened after that incident, and now she's back on to what she normally does, which is critiquing politics and critiquing the various bills that are going on and whatever, and she's back to where she was before, really. So that was a nonsense. That wasn't a direction that she was going at all. And you might be wondering why I'm sort of, pointing this out about her, because she's got a lot of followers, and this direction is really quite racist. It's racist, and it's playing into the establishment thing of trying to squash people organizing, calling it divisive, and trying to basically poo-poo anybody who has some reason to organize and need to have special spaces or whatever, or they have an issue that they have to deal with. The LGBTI community, that they have certain issues they have to deal with, and they have to organize. And of course, sometimes identity politics, if say, for example, that this recent ban on transgender people in the army, well, of course that's bad in that that's discrimination, so it is bad. But the military, the U.S. military, is basically going around the world terrorizing civilians and killing them by the hundreds of thousands and trying to start major wars. So who on earth would want to really join that dreadful army? I realize, and Navy and whatever, the whole thing, the defense forces, because they're terrorizing and killing brown people all over the place. Now, I realize that I realize that it's a transphobic thing to say no trans people can, join the military or whatever. That's bad. But really, it's such a disgraceful thing that most of what the U.S. military does is just terrorizing poor, defenseless, innocent civilians. And killing them. That's basically what they do. So, if we're intersectional, if we're looking at intersectional issues, we should reject that first and then think, well, yes, it's bad that trans people are being discriminated against, but it's worse what the U.S. military is doing to people of color all over the world, and mostly Muslims in Muslim-majority countries. So, it's sort of I've spoken to a particular trans person I know recently sort of said, well, the issue of trans people being banned from the military is the issue here. Well, yes, it is the issue, but then there is the issue that I've just mentioned of the terrible slaughtering of innocent civilians. So, it's like one has to look at that. I think that's a bigger issue in that case. The slaughtering of hundreds of thousands of of civilians and children in Muslim-majority countries. That's a bigger issue, and that's something we need to always think about. And I say this as someone from the LGBTIQ community, and who has trans friends. I have another trans friend who is totally thinks, well, that the U.S. military is pretty much a terrorist organization. And that that's the issue is, I think it's unfortunate, the transphobia, but it's also it's more unfortunate killing lots of civilians. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. I'm kind of really, really disappointed in Debbie Lusignan and Claudia Stauber. I really didn't think they would go in this direction, and I hope that if you have been following her, unfortunately she doesn't really listen to anything. I actually left a comment yesterday, and that was just deleted. And I won't probably be watching any of her things anymore. I really was just watching to see how far down the rabbit hole she went, and she seems to be well and truly invested in this, to the point where it's gone so far beyond what it's like she's turned an incident where her friend had a tanty into this major identity politics thing. It's so ridiculous and so unfortunate and so offensive. It's so offensive, and I can't tell you how, in many ways, how angry I get sometimes when I see her doing this, because like she's just throwing black people under the bus, the black community under the bus, by going this direction, all because her friend had a tanty because she couldn't go live stream in a group. I mean, seriously. That's why I sort of think it was because a black woman told her white friend that she couldn't live stream, and it's like her white friend had a real issue with it, that a black person would be doing that. That's what it feels like to me. I might be wrong. Claudia Stauber said it was because, it's an anti-war conference and we all should be doing things together and not having separate groups and stuff. Well, if a woman's group decided to have a closed group and she was invited, she was able to get in there, I'm sure she would have been fine with it being a closed group. But because it was a black group, it's a problem to her. Well, that's a nonsense. Anyway, I hope that if you follow these people, this phone's getting a bit heavy. I'm going to close up soon. But if you follow these people, you really need to think about what they're saying. Think about this position. This is like a white supremacist position. And, Ajama Baraka has said about Debbie Lusignan that, this is a sort of a white supremacist sort of behavior. And it is. And she can call that, and she's called this, calling her out on this bullying. Well, no, bullying is what you're doing to black people when you start vilifying them for organizing themselves and vilifying them because they want to have a closed group and saying identity politics is divisive. So that's bullying people, and it's sort of doing, right-wingers work for them by trying to prevent people from supporting communities. Yes, of course, it'd be lovely if we could all hold hands and run off into the sunset. That would be lovely, but we're not there yet by far. In fact, it's going backwards. So, this whole thing, this whole unity thing that Debbie Lusignan is now promoting on Sane Progressive, that's just obfuscation to the initial incident of Claudia Stauber and the Black Alliance for Peace group. This is what all this has come from, this nonsense. And now she's taking it to the nth level and sort of trying to vilify identity politics. Well, I just think that's appalling. And I hope nobody supports that. I think in many ways you should drop that channel like a hot potato, because it's really just become a white supremacist thing with a whole bunch of people cheering over it. It's just really, really unfortunate. I never thought it would go that way. So anyway, to the black community, I'm really sorry that so-called progressives are, people who actually thought they were real progressives. I'm not talking about the group that real progressives, but people who actually thought they were real progressives are far from it by going on like this. And we should reject that behavior and support the black community, support any community that is being vilified and is being targeted and whatever, any community. And of course, we should all be moving towards, and we should be interested in every community, not just the community we belong to, but every community, and support them. So that's really all I wanted to say. So thanks very much for listening. My name's Trish Roberts. Bye for now.
And so what happened was this woman who would be persecuted by this group of individuals made a decision to move forward fearlessly, retaining her own integrity, but reaching out. And that is how we change other people's perspectives that are harmful, that are filled with prejudices, that are that keep us divided and broken apart. Uh, Labeling the other person solely through this hateful thing and not seeing that there can be some kind of underlying commonality in humanity, like Cynthia did, it closes off those possibilities. Because what happens when you talk to other people who you may fear, or they may fear you, or they may view you in a very ugly way? When you talk to people instead of reciprocating their behavior in kind, do you know what happens? It is very, very hard for them to continue to solely other and hate you and to hate us based on the prejudices. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be moved in this way, and they may hold on to things that are hate-filled. But a lot of people, when you connect in that way, it makes it much, much harder to hold on to these preconceived notions that you may have about any one group or race or gender or sexuality or whatever, because all of a sudden they aren't the stereotype in the head anymore. They are a human being that you see as somebody, and you are witnessing them have thoughts and ideas outside of what you have been told or fear-mongered to. And that breaks the dynamic. That breaks the dynamic. It is hard. It is the stuff that the gurus of peacekeeping have been talking about through the ages. How you don't become what or emulate the behavior of those who oppress us. It is the hardest walk to walk. It is the hardest walk of all, and it is the only thing that will transcend us into finally moving past this. So when everybody's talking about, don't align with people who don't share your beliefs or you disagree with, that is ensuring that we remain othered, that we remain divided, that we never find any common bridge to humanity within these groups. It only happens when we break through that kind of fear. And I've talked about this before, and I will repeat it again. If you look at even in a family dynamic, where you see multi-generational experiences of an abuse within a family. You don't even need to go in political parties or opposite racial groups or different gender groups or fear around sexuality. You can see it, you can take it down to its most basic level in families. You see abuse dynamics come, and wounded people inflict wounded things on people that you're supposed to love the most, right? Your children, people who inflict abuse on children, and it's a tragic truth that often when people are taught abuse and pain, that they repeat those cycles and increase abuse and pain. So people who are the victims of this kind of violence and abuse or betrayal when they are young are the very people likely to move on with it when we're older, because it's learned behavior. It's learned conditioned behavior. And it is a very, very sad thing that it is, and it's a sad and hard truth to accept, that people who have been in roles of victimization are often the people that have to end up being the ones to break cycles and refuse to emulate the behavior of people who have been harmful to them. So if a child grows up and has been a victim of that kind of mentality and that oppression and that pain, and says, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I am going to break that cycle and I'm going to move forward in love. That is the most basic example of how that dynamic breaks. And it is the same thing with any other relationships. You can move it up to the next level. You can move it up to relationships between partners. And those ways, and it's often the person who has been in the role of being victimized or abused in a couple's relationship who has to assert their advocacy and problem solving and leave abusive relationships and be the one to be the role model. And what happens is the groups other each other. It's a human dynamic. It's not just any one, it's not just between racial groups. It's not just between nationalities. It's not just between people of different sexualities or anything that you could put into an identity group. We other each other, and different groups jockey for power over each other. And at some point, we need to learn to break dynamics where we are not jockeying for this power over each other. We are learning how to see each other, find a deeper common humanity with each other, so that we are healing past those hurts. And instead of doing that work right now, what is really going to heal things for us, what is happening is identity politics has been put forward as something that is replacing the work that is going to be necessary for us to truly heal these deep hurts. And none of this negates that certain groups and certain populations have been targeted systematically by a system that has developed institutionalized oppression against poor people, black people, Latinos, mentally ill. Pick your group, pick your marginalized group. It does not mean that there has not been systemic oppression and that groups are targeted. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen. It means that if you want to create true building and true alliances that are going to actually heal this dynamic, is when we stop seeing each other through that and see each other through our common empathy and through our humanity. That is the most powerful thing. When we can see each other through that lens, we are able to move and heal. This is not easy stuff. This is really, really hard stuff. It is the hardest work that we are called to do. But right now, people are eviscerating Caitlin Johnstone, even though Caitlin Johnstone is not a person who actually ever asserted these premises anyways. She didn't talk about aligning with white nationalists anyways. They fear white folks and black folks coming together, from Cynthia McKinney. The power structure. They fear us coming together. And identity politics is a mechanism where they very much have created a language which keeps up a divide. It does not heal. It does not heal the underlying dynamics. It is substituting. It is replacing the harder and deeper discussions that we need to have. It is giving a very narrow, rigid way of a dictated way of speaking, rather than finding ways to share experiences through empathy and to share real pain all around so that people can experience and see each other. It is substituting. It's substituting for the deeper work. It's substituting for the very work that it is trying to masquerade as. And that is what is so dangerous about it. It doesn't mean that you do not honor any of the experiences of any group within the system and how they have individually been targeted, or how this system has fed and harmed. In fact, when you truly, truly talk on these levels and go to these levels of hurt and pain and do these kind of deeper works, it creates a much deeper empathy to want to actually do something that costs something. To really, really help these groups. Because right now, we've got a lot of mealy-mouth, politically correct words masquerading as actually being advocates for these populations, when the very people who spew that language the most are the people who are actively using it to manipulate and legislate harm against these populations. And this has got to stop substituting for the real connection. This identity politics thing is something that needs to be transcended. And I'm not saying that there aren't things that we need to learn from, or there may be individual blocks that we may not see. But I'm saying that when we cut each other off and define anyone solely through a very narrow, rigid way of being, then we are actually practicing the othering and the division that we are saying that we are outraged against by the very people. And we start emulating their behavior, and we become exactly like we say what we want to oppose. This is about loving each other. This is about doing personal work, and instead of saying platitudes, sitting down and looking at where your own fears really lie. Not having somebody dictate and tell you where those fears come from, but honestly looking where your prejudices are, where your fears are. And we've all got them as human beings born into this very, very broken world. We all have them. We all have them. And Cynthia McKinney has worked with people who are on the right, or people that all of these people who are screaming about with Katie Johnson. You can't unite with them. Uniting, you don't have to. You don't have to take up their beliefs. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to advocate for what they are advocating for that is ugly. But when you talk to people and instead of cutting off all possibility, then they've won. The segment at the top that Cynthia McKinney is talking about, who are so terrified that we are actually going to unite and stop being divided, which they need us divided to keep this power. That is how you transcend. Or we can go the other path. We can stay divided. We can become more and more resentful. We can become more and more fearful. And we can just we can stay in this gridlock and allow this to be a tool to be used and wielded against us. This is very, very difficult subject matter to even discuss, because if you even put forth in the most loving way possible that there is a different perspective that needs to be heard on this, there is a large group of people, or maybe not a large group of people, but there is a segment of people, just because you are talking about this in a way that is not approved under the complete politically correct approved book, then you're going to be a supremacist. You're going to be a racist. You're going to be a secret white nationalist. You're going to be somebody that is not a true ally. And isn't that great for them? Isn't that perfect for them? The people who actually are trying to have the discussions that will bring it to this deeper, more healing level are going to be crucified to be accused of what they are trying to heal. I'm not saying that blunders aren't made. I'm not saying that hurt doesn't come out, but I'm saying that what I have seen with this most recent thing around how the conversation of identity politics has been handled has been almost mob-like at times. It's been almost mob-like. And I fully stand with Katie. And just like I have stood with Claudia when everybody wanted to burn her as a witch, because she put forward assertions around being concerned about something that she thought was divisive. Not because she wanted, not because she was trying to advance some kind of power dynamic, but because she was concerned about the othering and divide that these dynamics play out. Now, maybe it was not articulated as well as it should have been. Maybe there were some blocks or things that weren't seen in the larger discussion. But there was no room whatsoever to even consider that these perspectives may not be coming from the places that people demanded that they were coming from. These conversations are hard, and anybody who puts themselves out to try to heal these things at a deeper level should be applauded. They should, even if it's messy, even if you don't get everything right, even if you don't understand every premise, or you may miss something that needs to be included. This is the hard work. These conversations are the hard work. Not these, you talk like this, I demand this, this is the only way to do it, and if you don't, this is who you are and how I define you, and I am going to other you in the exact same way that I say is not allowed. It's hypocritical, it's ugly, and it is not going to, and what is our goal? Our goal should be to be finding a way through this. with love. And it's going to be painful because the history around all this kind of stuff is deeply, deeply painful. People have a lot of trauma. And people have a lot of pain and a lot of fear. And what I see right now is the dynamics of the public conversation aren't transcending that fear or breaking that fear. It is splintering us further and further apart, and some of it is by design. Some of it is by design. And some people just don't know any better, and they don't know how that they are being led to a tactic. Mark my words. They will use this dog whistle as it comes up, as people who are standing up to try to unite beyond what we are in right now, because they're terrified. They're terrified that if we finally look up, if we finally stop this infighting, they know that they can't stop us and they can't hold their power. We have got to find ways around this. I want to talk about this subject about as much as I want to get a diagnosis of brain cancer. Being in the middle of this has been one of the most uncomfortable things I have ever experienced with my own history of trauma in my entire life, and it almost made me quit the channel. But the thing that Sane Progressive does, and I will always do, is I will go where angels fear to tread. I will say the things that people will not say in public. I will go to the places that we really need to go. And if people want to condemn me for that or define me for that, I do not care. I will not be silenced. My voice will not be bullied. And that is what I have seen. Bullying. And if you are exhibiting a bullying dynamic, you are emulating the establishment. Know that. All right. As always, this is Debbie, the Sane Progressive. You guys stay sane and peace out.